Welcome to this explainer, where we're looking at a true legend of the game. For over 5 decades now, Tom Fazio hasn't just been designing championship golf courses, he's literally been shaping the memories that we golfers carry with us for a lifetime. Today, we're unpacking this incredible legacy of elegance, diving deep into how Fazio completely redefined the way we experience a walk through nature. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of his design mechanics, I want you to do something for me. Just close your eyes for a second. Picture your absolute favorite golf course. You probably don't remember every single yardage or even every score on your card, right? But I bet you remember a feeling. Maybe it's the morning sunlight spilling across a perfectly contoured fairway, the sound of water tumbling right next to an isolated green, or turning a corner to see a breathtaking panorama that just stops you in your tracks. Well, Tom Fazio operates on one core philosophy. The measure of a golf course isn't how difficult it is. It's whether golfers can't wait to play it again. And honestly, that simple idea, that's our thematic blueprint for today. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand how Fazio brings so much joy and natural integration back to golf architecture, we're going to explore 4 key pillars today: the measure of greatness, possibility over punishment, listening to the land, and finally, a legacy of memories. All right, Section 1, the measure of greatness, defining a modern master. By the time Tom Fazio entered the 21st century, his reputation absolutely preceded him. Across America, premier clubs proudly displayed his name right alongside theirs. Developers and resorts viewed a Fazio-designed course as a massive statement of sheer quality, a true pinnacle of architectural achievement. If you were to look at Fazio's architect scorecard, you'd see universal 5-star ratings across the board. We're talking innovation, beauty, playability, environmental stewardship, and lasting influence. But the absolute kicker here is how he achieves this remarkable balance. His designs have this universal appeal. They welcome beginners without ever boring the accomplished players. Think about it. A Fazio course can host the world's finest touring pros, giving them strategic subtleties they really have to sweat over, while simultaneously delivering an unforgettable, joyful day for someone playing their very first round. Let me tell you, very few architects in the history of the game have ever managed to strike that delicate chord. Moving on to Section 2, possibility over punishment, redefining the challenge. Look, golf architecture has always evolved, right? Equipment changes, balls fly way farther now, and agronomy has drastically improved. But Fazio, he understands one timeless principle. Above all else, golf should never, ever lose its sense of wonder. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast between that old-school traditional mentality and Fazio's philosophy. Traditional design often leaned heavily on artificial difficulty, fear, punishing roughs, demanding brute strength just to protect par. It was the penal school of architecture, essentially daring you to fail. Fazio completely flipped the script. His style is all about discovery, imagination, and possibility. He proved that memorable golf isn't created by punishing the player. It's created by inviting us to think rather than fear. So how does he actually pull that off? Well, he uses some very specific tools of possibility. For instance, he utilizes these wonderfully wide landing areas that conceal brilliant strategic decisions. And, let's be honest, save us from losing a few golf balls in the process. He places beautiful lakes that tempt you into making bold carries if you want that optimal angle to the pin. His rolling fairways actively reward your imagination, letting you use the ground game just as effectively as the aerial game. Every single ridge, every bunker, every distant mountain view is a carefully composed experience. He uses these elements to ensure that every hole feels like a brand new page in a story. Because when a design encourages choices, those choices create stories, and those stories become the memories you take home. Which brings us to Section 3, listening to the land, the architect as conservationist. Now, despite all his massive worldwide recognition, Fazio is consistently described by his colleagues as thoughtful, patient, and incredibly collaborative. He acts as a true steward of the land, always willing to walk the property just one more time before making a final routing decision. He never believed that success meant having all the answers before breaking ground. Instead, every single design begins with one single, powerful question. What does this land want to become? He doesn't impose his will on the environment. He discovers what is already there. His conservationist approach follows a really distinct rhythm. He starts by asking how the land's strongest natural qualities can be revealed, utilizing existing elements, like ancient hardwoods, as dramatic framing for green complexes. Rather than just bulldozing obstacles or piping water underground, he turns native streams into strategic features that actually dictate your line of play. Then he shapes the rolling terrain into organic fairways that feel entirely unmanufactured. Honestly, the highest compliment you can give Fazio is leaving a heavily engineered project believing the course had simply been waiting there for centuries to be discovered. Great design rarely announces itself. It just feels inevitable. A perfect example of this reverence is Pinehurst number 8. Now, some architects try to leave their own loud signature wherever they go. Not Fazio. He chose a totally different path here. He understood that Pinehurst is one of golf's most treasured homes, famously associated with the absolute genius of Donald Ross. So rather than competing with that historic legacy, he complemented it. He embraced the sandy landscape and native wiregrass that purists expect in the North Carolina sandhills. But he added his own philosophy of generous playing corridors, thoughtful angles, and just incredible visual elegance. It perfectly respects the greatest traditions of the game while effortlessly embracing the future. Let's head into our final part, Section 4, a legacy of memories shaping the future. You know, one of Tom Fazio's greatest accomplishments literally cannot be measured by rankings, awards, or scorecards. It is measured by the people, the experiences, and the traditions he continues to inspire. Let's move to and see how this builds over time. This enduring legacy has grown steadily over the decades. By the 2000s, he was already recognized as America's premier golf course architect. From that point up to the present day, he's masterfully balanced designing spectacular new courses with delicately restoring historic classics. Across multiple decades, his routings have consistently dominated America's top 100 lists. And today, his vast body of work is influencing a completely new generation of golf architects all around the world who fiercely study his philosophy of natural integration. And that tradition is actively being carried forward. Golf architecture is so deeply rooted in mentorship and craftsmanship. Just as Tom learned from his uncle George Fazio, these core principles are being passed down to the next generation of his family and the designers he mentors. They place heavy emphasis on preserving natural landscapes, protecting mature trees and waterways, and always prioritizing what is timeless over what is merely trendy. Modern architecture now universally values beauty and environmental balance without relying on cheap gimmicks, and that is largely because of Fazio's thoughtful, groundbreaking approach. Which brings us to our final thought. Tom Fazio fundamentally changed how we experience a walk through nature. He constantly reminds us that golf is, at its core, a conversation with the land, a collection of moments shared with friends, family, and fellow competitors. Long after scorecards fade, those moments remain. That is the golden thread of his legacy. So, I want to leave you with this to ponder. In whatever work you do, are you building for the immediate scorecard, or are you crafting a legacy of moments that will remain long after you're gone?